Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. I'm sitting up in my office. I got my headset on. I got brown hair, brown eyes. I'm wearing a Keep Bitcoin Shady shirt that we designed here at the Fledge, and doing a lot with crypto these days. You guys should come check out the Fledge.community, and I've got a new thing that we're playing with called BitClout. That it's not ours, but it's pretty super cool. But I don't want to talk about all that. I have on a show today our very good friend, Mr. Tony Willis. What's up, Tony?
Hey, Jerry, man, glad to see you. Good to be here. I'm going to describe myself, too.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony Willis, black male, bald, beard, in the basement, kind of workstation area. Hoodie on, green shirt, African print on it. So, yeah, that's me.
And you got the greatest. You got the champ in your background.
Yeah, I have Muhammad Ali here, and got my man Malcolm on the other side, as well as the Mandalorian bobblehead toy as well. So.
Oh yeah, that's something we were prepping a minute ago. We got to talk about all the comic stuff and all that too. We got someone else on the show too.
Yeah, so my youngest, well, he was there. He's kind of running around right now. So yeah,
Yeah. So let's jump into you. Why don't you tell us about you and your projects? Where you were born and raised, all that stuff.
Yeah, Jerry. So born and raised out of Oak Park, Michigan. Originally, so Metro Detroit area. Oak Park, don't know, it's between like Royal Oak and Southfield and Ferndale in that area. Grandma raised me for majority of my time. So I became high school age, and I came up here to East Lansing with my dad and my stepmom. Went to East Lansing High School, graduated, went to LCC, did that for 2 years, transferred to MSU for 2.5 years, maybe 3, something like that. And got my degrees in communication and sociology. From there, got a job at MSU Federal Credit Union, worked in the business service and the loan department for about 4.5, 5 years. And then met my predecessor and mentor, good friend, Jeff Smith. He was at Leap at that point. I met him at like the first hatching, I think, or the second hatching. And I was like, yo, this is pretty cool. It's pretty dope. And we hit it off. I brought him in and we chopped it up at Leap MSUFCU. And then we had an opening. I, applied, and 3 days later, I got the job, and bing, bada, boom. And it's been there ever since. Been there for 7.5 years now, I think. Something like that. It blends. It all goes together.
And something like that happened to me. I met you and Jeff at a hatching, and next thing you know.
The hatchings are magical space. A lot of cool stuff comes from that.
Yeah, let's throw that out there, thehatching.org. People can still register for the next one?
Yep, I believe registrations are open up. The next one is, don't have the date in front of me, but it'll be in the springtime, somewhere between now and June. So, yeah.
Yeah. I should look that up.
Yeah, or late June, something like that. But go to thehatching.org, check it out, get your idea, submit it, make it happen.
It used to be easy because it was every month. We just said the third Thursday or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But so before we get into Leap and Deep and all of that.
I'm right here. Yeah, I'm here, Jerry.
No, I thought you were going to bring him up. That's all right, too.
Okay,
man.
Here.
We love kids.
Yeah, so this is my youngest, Aiden. He broke his, like a wind-up dump truck, and he's trying to have me fix it. But right now, it's unfixable. So is life sometimes. But sorry, Jared. Yeah.
You got a headset on, otherwise I'd be waving and trying to make noises and get his attention and all that. But so before we get into Leap and Deep, though, is that okay the way I'm saying it? Leap and Deep?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the name, by the way. We'll get to that. You do a lot more than just give loans and stuff. I mean, you met your wife. You have a comic book habit. I don't know.
Yeah, you can describe it as a habit. Yeah, for sure. So my wife, she's amazing. Ashley Willis, Pruitt was her maiden name. She went to Grand Ledge. I think she's come on the show, so I don't tell more about her. But she
Yeah,
has her own
a few
story.
days. Don't
Yeah,
give it
I
all
won't
away.
give all the way that way. We met at the Jazz Fest actually, and back when both in college, she had her entrepreneurship, selling her stuff and her goods, and I was like, oh, that's pretty dope because not too people at that point, 18, 19, uh, committed, created their own stuff, selling at a festival, family support, and we just head off, and then we married, 3 kids, all boys, all beautiful, all handsome, all great, smart, good kids. I'm a comic book, collector as well. I love a good story. Jerry, I think storytelling is, hey, this is storytelling. Stories are one of the best forms of human expression and communication, and they can bring out truths that are hard to talk about otherwise without the backdrop. What do I have over here, Jerry? I got, so quickly, I'll show you. This is, Maestro. I'm not sure my camera's at. So if the Hawk in the future becomes evil and he's the ruler of the world and he's forgiven up on humanity. And so this is about that story. Yeah, we go a lot about that, Jerry. And the other one here is this is a newer one from Jim Henson. This is called the Storyteller, and he's a series. And the first one is with Anansi. He's an African god of stories, and a trickster god. And so I think he's going to go through all the storytellers like Loki, Anansi. There's a Mayan version, and it's funny because these are common threads amongst humanity as a whole in these spaces. So it tells you how we as people, as a society, tend to group these things together across geographical landscape, or religion, and everything else.
That day we all went to Detroit and we toured around to all the different incubators and we were sitting there talking and stuff. I think that's the day that you really turned me on to Afrofuturism and like Octavius S. Butler. I want to read everything she has now.
Same here. I need to get more. Like, I have only one of her books. I can't escape from the name, but I mean, she's really a pioneer is the best way to describe her and everything she's done. And God bless her soul, and from that space on. So that's amazing.
Usually, the first 2 books are either Acorn or Parable of the Sower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the parable. That's the one I'm most familiar with. Yes. And Afrofuturism. That's why I categorize myself in that view as well. To pan Afrofuturism, the entire African experience created, and the empowerment of said people, and what we look like in the future. I believe that it's that the continent and the nations within Africa play a major part in the African experience of the future and the Black experience of the future. Yeah.
So, NASA named their first landing spot on Mars, or the most recent one, not the first one, after her. And I'm I'm a little bit torn because I'm not sure she liked colonization, but she did talk, her character in Parable of the Sower and the different parables also talks about that a lot. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good ode, but yeah, right. How would she really feel about it? It's to be determined, but at least it's out there for future generations to look upon and see a name and kind of relate that back to yeah.
And do you consider comic books like literature?
Absolutely, yeah. For sure. I mean, the way comic books are now, they have major authors a part of it. So the Black Panther, the current run of the Black Panther, is with Ta-Nehisi Coates is the author, the main writer of the series. He's been doing it for the last 3 years. And so if you're familiar with his work and endeavors, I mean, it translates very well. These aren't just, you know, the Avengers assemble, they fight a big bad guy, go away. Some are like that. There's different ranges of comic books, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you like any show on TV, comic books are like the first step into a show. And a lot of the shows are based off works of comic books because you have a story, you have the visual pieces already detailing to make it see what it can look like on a film, possibly, and then a producer will take that and get it greenlit for a show. Like so I do. So long answer to your short question is yes, I do.
Well, I love your passion behind it. It's always made me respect it more. I mean, you single-handedly like lifted me up and say, all right, comic books are important. And I tell that to people all the time, but I don't know the last time I read one. I need to do it. You need to give me one to read.
You know what? I will. Actually, I know you had Victoria as a guest in the past. I gave Victoria and her daughter a few comic books. Then also, uh, back when I was in charge of the entrepreneurship division, I would give comic books to my team for like employee appreciation plus other stuff. I always give a comic book. I don't think they ever read any of them, but at least they're out there to. Jerry, yes,
just your team or not your subcontractors, though, huh?
Just the immediate, but yes, Jerry.
Okay,
I think you're owed a comic book from me, at least one, if not more.
So just real quick, Erica Munchback, Don, our good buddy from the Hatching Days, and Mona David are all saying hi to you.
Hey, tell them I say, hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining
us. Let's get into Leap and Deep. Oh, first of all, you said, see, I thought you were the first MC the Hatching ever had. Was Jeff?
Yeah, it was Jeff and Paul originally. I think they both kind of co-MC'd it. So Paul Jakes, Jeff Smith, OGs in the entrepreneurship space in the region. They really kickstarted. I give them full credit to that. Is that Beggar's Banquet? We were there for a number of years. And I believe, Paul and Jeff both co-MC'd it. And then I think they couldn't make it one day. And this after me and Jeff knew each other, got like a relationship formed. He asked me this is before I even worked at Leap. This was at MSSU, I believe. And he asked me, hey, you can MC it for me. And that since then, it's been, I've had it for a while. Then, CISO rocked out the house for a while. Then Num is doing a great job at this point in time. So, you yourself, Jerry, knocked it out for last year very well. So it's a lot of, the torch has been passed many times in many ways.
Yeah. So Don confirmed that it was Jeff and Paul.
Oh,
now he's, I love, I participated in the hatching at the Beggar Banquet, and I love that intimate, just how close everybody was. It felt like a rap battle. It was a rap battle for me because those kids were singing, but I whine about that too much.
That was a glorious day, Jerry. So that was great. That's forever in my memory is that day.
On the down low, I think you might have influenced the outcome a little bit. You're like, I don't know. Those kids were cute. That's what I know.
Yeah.
So Leap, let's start there. What is the Lansing Economic Area Partnership?
Yeah, so thanks for breaking down the acronym there. It's we are the region's economic development organization. So we represent Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton County when it comes to the economic development efforts. We also have a contract with the city of Lansing. And so when people say economic development, what does that mean? It means pathways into prosperity. That's what economic development boils down to, is that a region should be mobilized and constructed in a way where that there are pathways of success to expand opportunities and to make your region more viable, more prosperous. That's what economic development boils down to. And to get to that, if that's the goal of it, is through a number of programs and types of initiatives. That being the most critical, the two most notable pieces of economic development are business attraction and business expansion. That would be like your cornerstones are the ones that people are most familiar with. And so business attraction is landing new projects to our region. Keith and our team does quite well. If you think about some of the bigger projects that are coming here from people, we have to find, network, bid, showcase the resources, showcase the people, the personnel, the infrastructure to make your space a desirable space for a business to set up shop outside here. Expansion is where we have a current existing business, and how can we enhance their footprint in our space? How can we make them more larger, employ more people, be more profitable? Because all that matters. And the other part is development side. You think of the physical space beyond the businesses is how do we redevelop brownfield properties? So properties are obsolete, get them back on the tax roll, get them back on a place of not being a blight to the community to look at, it being a safer place, an established place. Then, entrepreneurship is where I guess I previously was, not there as much anymore. My new role, I was there for a number of years. So entrepreneurship innovation is the economic gardening. You're the master of that, Jerry, in this sense, I would say, whereas in empowering people to develop and act on their ideas to get root and get welcomed and actually grow and flourish ideas here. So that's where we want to, that's economic development as a whole. We do a lot of other things on top of that, so we're not your standard EDO. We like, the poet laureate, the placemaking projects, the DEEP initiative. We'll talk about that as well here. Those things are not standard in your traditional economic development. Even entrepreneurship is not. Some of these are not in your standard EDOs.
Yeah. So I think, LEAP does a really good job of looking at the holistic system, I think. And, whether it's an art project that beautifies a park somewhere, that's what people want, right? People don't want to move to a city that is all just big, tall concrete buildings with nothing to do and nobody to talk to. I mean, I've always said, if I can walk into a bar in Lansing and start talking to the guy next to me about something other than how shitty his job is or the weather, then we're doing really good as a city. And I've seen that change. It really has changed. That really has been my measure. Not necessarily the bar thing.
City sucks.
It's cold. It's always cloudy. But now we're talking about different things. We're talking about entrepreneurialism. We're talking about the new capital city market, for example. As much as I was off put by them a little bit at the beginning, they're turning out to be superstars in this neighborhood,
Right.
Yeah. So I think you've done a hell of a job, Tony, and you and the whole team. I mean, you always got to give a shout out to Bob, right? So shout out to Bob real quick.
I would say, absolutely. Shout out to Bob. It's no easy feat running an organization. Also, when we talk about LEAP and the organization, LEAP is not a government-funded organization. For people, it's not. We have membership, and membership are investors, are your community, your larger community corporations are in our community, I should say. And so they pay an annual toll or annual investment to make LEAP operational. And so, which, as we know, capital in the Lansing region is always one of those things. People always look at our Achilles heel. We have the people, we have the creativity. It's a good place, but people always say the capital, right? And our not the physical building.
There's no capital in the capital.
Right. There's no good one. and so it comes up with that money annually to get it funded. And so I do give Bob credit and our membership, our investors, a lot of credit for continue that on, because in comparison, we're in the if I say honestly, the lower tier revenue from other EDOs comparatively, but we do some of the highest impactful work as well. Yeah. And we've gotten a lot of notoriety from our peers, from Ann Arbor, the right place, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, and other peers, and they see the work we're doing here, knowing our limitations to a degree. But we're making it happen. So thank you for that, Jerry.
I just want to give a shout out to something that you're not quite saying, but I want to say it. You guys are great at finding money and pulling it into the region. Just the bureaucracy around that is so big and so complicated, but you can find the grants from MEDC, you can find the grants from the feds. And, I really appreciate that. I didn't always understand it and always appreciate it. I think probably till Bob told me one day that he's just a great bureaucrat and he's super proud because the world needs great bureaucrats. And, nothing against his creativity because he's an art lover and all these. Oh, yeah. He brought the poet laureate to us.
The placemaking projects, those grants. Yeah.
But you guys do amazing work.
Appreciate it, Jerry. Yeah. It's we try to do it as holistic, as you put it, as best as possible, because it all feeds together. This is all connected. And the better you understand that, from workforce development to K through 12 education to the sense of place, it's all connected to what a prosperous region is and opportunities that are out there for people. So we try to figure out how we can best plug in as possible.
Yeah. So as we transition to deep, we didn't talk about this, but I think it's going to be okay the way I phrase this right now. So I'm just going to, this is not Tony's words. These are my words right now. There was always a phrase that rising tides lift all boats, right? But somewhere in there, we lost the fact that not everybody has a boat. And sometimes rising tides don't help people. They gentrify them. They push them out. They do stuff like that. And we've always tried to make, in the entrepreneurial space, working with you, I know we tried to help people get more prosperous. But then we also had housing. We had all these other complicated things. Somewhere in there, we've recognized that equity is super important. And that's my lead in to what deep is. Yeah, I hope that was okay.
Perfect. Maestro, more, Jerry. But no, that was great. And you're right. Some people don't have boats. Some people are hanging on a plank of wood, and if they're lucky, unfortunately, what's going on right now, right? And the rising tide can crash somebody into a boat. And, to take this even further with that, but we have to be conscious in our efforts and our intentionality to make sure that we are actually generating prosperity for all. And that's where it comes with DEEP. And DEEP is the acronym for the Department of Equitable Economic Planning. It's deeper than rap.
See, I would try to say that. I can't even say those two words together without mixing them all up. So I can't pronounce what DEEP is, but I love the name DEEP, right? I know you do too. I know you do.
So with all that, we created this program. Last year, we had conversations, me, Bob, then the executive committee at LEAP. I think it became more evident. We always knew there was disparities. So kind of like a backdrop, you were there, Jerry, in 2019, we designed the One and All program. So we designed that program knowing in 2020 that the ALICE levels, we know that they're out there, and that, Michigan, around 40% of all households are below ALICE, and that number jumps to 60% when we look at the Black community. All right. So there's people who are hurting in that space. They can't make all their basic needs. So you can make 4 out of the 5. You're playing shuffle to fit one in, and that type of space. And so we designed a program ahead of the curve, knowing that, hey, we got to be more intentional on this. And then, unfortunately, with George Floyd's murder, that brought a more sense of social awareness, and when it comes to not just social justice aspects, when it comes to Black people in policing, but as a whole, other inequities. The COVID-19 itself amplified those inequities. And so it really, I think the task of the day for us as an organization, one of our major tasks is how do we play a critical role in finding solutions, creating pathways, removing obstacles to really develop a sense of opportunity and for people to grow, and that's where Deep is about. And with that, we have a full plan, which, if I broke it down to you quickly here, Jerry, it's 3 areas. It's between programs, policies, and collaborations. And within those 3 main areas, there's a number of tiers and tasks and things I've laid out, and as the collective got feedback in to get that going. One and All was a program to address a pathway for those to make entrepreneurship more attainable for those at or below Alice. That's the only qualification. Because of the Michigan Constitution, we can't discriminate against any other or take any favor of anything else, like affirmative action, that forth. But we know that a lot of underrepresented people are at or below Alice. Mm-hmm. And so that's a way to get into that realm. So that was one way. With the education, the mentorship, you, the Pledge, and the RDC have been major contributors and partners for that. So I thank you for that, your time and energy.
We love it. We love it.
No, and it shows, Jerry, but I really want to thank you again. You, the Pledge, and Erica, her team at RDC, amazing. So that was one program. Another program we started this year is the DBA to LLC conversion. It's going to be called Level Up. We're looking at launch that here this year. Part of the reasons, came to disparities with the PPP funding a year from almost today during this time period in April, there's a disproportionate amount of Black and brown businesses that didn't receive as much funding as they, if you looked at it as pure representation should have. And with that, we found out there's a number of reasons. But to break it down quickly is that Black and brown businesses, respectively, are around 84 and 78% sole proprietorships are single or non-employee firms, all right? So DBAs in that space. Beyond that, Black and brown businesses are historically underbanked as well. Don't have as much of a banking relationship with said institution. And so those two, but then the thing that really pushed it is that the first PPP program discredited sole proprietorships in that space, or was in favor. So you have the majority of Black and brown businesses in this caveat, in this groups, and that group allotment is now being discredited. So you have now limited the number of folks that are able to get that funding. And so we've had a number of conversations with folks on the county level as well. That's a whole other story to help that out. But so we said, all right, let's start. We have this data from these restart programs and everything else. Let's use that. And then we have our One and All program. We know a number of those folks are DBAs. And let's use it as a pathway to get the next step, and not just getting an LLC for LLC's sake or to go for PPP, but get the additional benefits, the perpetuity of the business, so it lasts longer, the limited liability between you, your personal assets, and the business assets, a chain of custody with those assets, the ability to secure larger contracts because some organizations will only deal with a LLC versus our corporation versus a DBA. And so those other benefits, as well as getting those individuals a banking relationship, an accounting system in place, because these are ways that we can further enhance the opportunities down the line. As we know, states and counties and communities are getting more money for more federal programs this year as well. So that's one of the things we're doing as well.
Can we refer them all to Greenwood, Killer Mike's new bank?
Yeah, we should and we could. And ideally, so totally separate. I was kind of like, joking, but also true, because, there's truth in every joke and statement. There's like a Black Economic Empowerment Roundtable we have, in the conversation, I said, we should actually reach out and ask Killer Mike to bring that institution have Lansing. It's a virtual platform, but how can we have a real campaign in our region to make sure we get people signed up for it? And let's be the most welcoming to make sure that can happen. That's the route we could be thinking about taking that kind of outside of league, but there's actions in that should take place.
I think I learned a lot from Killer Mike with economic development with the trigger warning.
Trigger warning on Netflix, yeah. So
sorry, you know how we are. You and I we start talking like this. What's something? I don't know the right question. What's some more stuff? that you want to talk about Deep real quick while I get my thoughts back because I got distracted. And I'm reading Michael Lynn's comment too, real quick.
Okay, yeah, Reed's comment, you can bring it up too. Or so, yeah, a few other things. We talk about economic empowerment, and it's crucial to the Black experience and Black relevancy in the future. When we talk about pan Afrofuturism, that's where it's at. And to bring it down directly in this space, another reason where we saw the percentage around 40% of Black businesses drop down within the COVID pandemic is because the Black businesses and the brown businesses are at the very last leg of the supply chain. What that means is Black businesses and brown businesses are majorly focused or clustered in the retail segment of the supply chain. So when COVID hit, when people lost their jobs, got underpaid or furloughed, revenue, their pockets decreased, they had less money to spend on the consumer portion. And if you're a business who's solely based on the consumer industry, now you have been zapped up. How can we move Black and brown businesses further up the supply chain? From retail to wholesale to manufacturing to raw good procurement, and get complete vertical integration in that space to empower the wealth generation. And so that's one of the hopefully 2022 programs. And we also have a program when it comes to cooperatives, both on worker-owned businesses as well as procurement. So I'll say these two, then I'd like to give you time for your question here, Jerry. These are all the programs here. So one of the worker-owned is that we know there are a lot of existing businesses still, and I've talked to a number of business owners that, especially small businesses, I think it's going to be the next crisis possibly, is that the lack of succession planning. That I have made my money, I have now done with the business, I'm looking to move on. I talked to a number of folks that are just looking, hey, I worked here for 25 years, I'll be 26 years, I started my business, is, they might have been the best product in their area, but there isn't, they don't have an heir apparent. And whether, son, daughter, family member, friend. So they say, I've been saving money up, it's time to go. Well, how can we have the workers of that business take ownership of that business? And having a worker-owned cooperative is the pathway to do that. And that's one of the programs where, especially when the majority of that workforce we see are underrepresented groups, they have access to buy said business as an individual or a collective. That's a way to get into ownership, because wealth generation is one of the biggest things that are lacking in the Black and brown community.
Keeping that wealth, right?
And keeping that wealth, for sure.
Yeah. So Michael Lynn is over here. Hi, Michael. First of all, and welcome back to Lansing from your trip. He's talking about how we're going to deal with classism within the Black community. And I see that in a few different ways. And I don't think we got enough time to tackle all of that. But I think Michael would like to meet with you at some point and talk. We'll talk about that later. But I think, he's talking about some of, Gregory and Joel and people like that on the one hand, and how are they supporting the Black community? Are they investing in the Black community? And I don't mean to call them out like that, but without them being here. But I guess I do. I don't mind. I know both of them for over 40 years. But then also, I think, and I'm not trying to put words in Michael's mouth, but talking about, just sometimes there's a lot of competition within the Black community for, who's going to get there first, or who's going to do it the best, or who's going to do whatever. And it seems sometimes that, there's not a cohesion to fight the right fight, and the fighting turns on ourselves.
Yeah, Jerry. So there's a lot to dissect there. So I'll say this first. Classism exists no matter what group you're in, Black, brown, white, and different in that space. So that is true. That's valid. When it comes to the approach, is that you have to, there's a lot to dissect there. One thing is you have to be willing to do the work that needs to be done in a way where egos put aside and the best things can happen. And I think people, when especially classism, when you have something to lose, people feel that way. They, you're afraid of losing something by chance. That's out there for sure. Also, um, I would say further, that's the part of something to lose, but also say that when it comes to people, I think I think this is okay. We're going a lot of spots here. It's mentoring and educating folks collectively. I think that goes across the board. Is that we all need to be sharpening each other's axes to do things together, right? And I
Mhm.
feel like somebody can have the best idea, but are they the one prepared to run and do that idea, right? And are they really? And some people will allow somebody to do something because they have the passion behind it, but then are not fully skilled to do that. They let that person because it's their idea or X, Y, and Z. And we kind of get it from the entrepreneurial space, Jerry, is that yeah, you have the idea, but are you the one to actually to get that idea done? That's why there's a team. You're the CEO, but are you the tech person? Are you the marketing person? Are you this person? How do we collectively come together? But so as a separate, I guess one, I would definitely love to have a conversation with Michael and talk further about that. Me, Jerry, I talk to everybody. I'm who I am with my space. But there is classism. I think we'll be here for a few hours to dissect that. But that does exist.
Yeah, and Michael, him and Erica, they started the village, which I think is doing great work and has a great mission. We had another shooting last night. We had another shooting just a few nights before that. Sometimes we separate economic development from those types of issues, but before 1910, economic development was just called society. And I think sometimes we got to get those issues back into this because they're in the way of what we're trying to do. Um,
It's a mixed bag. Yeah, for sure. Right. It is society. And, when I hear it's unfortunate, but when I hear about somebody getting, shooting, somebody get hurt, that's always unfortunate to hear. But you're right. We have to get back to the societal, the baseline of it.
mm-hmm,
We have to get back to collaboration as a whole. And we're all here to collaborate. We also know that the Black experience is not a monolithic experience either. We're not a monolithic collective, the Borg type thing, right? Whereas individuals in historically, we have seen people turn their back on the collective group for their own growth. And people can be the hero and the villain in the same story multiple times over. And so, that's in that route as well. But how do we? There's a lot to talk about that in that space.
yeah, let's. You and Michael are going to be able to work this out. You grown ass man, right? But let's talk a little bit about your mission, um, for what you're trying to do with Deep, and then maybe even your personal mission, and how are the two things together?
Yeah, for sure. So my mission, I think what got me into Leap originally, Jerry, was the ability to impact and create change for people and to help give resources, help give feedback, ideas, uh, inspiration, to assist. I think that's who and personally who I am. And that shows I've had the opportunity to show that throughout my work at Leap in different spaces. You know, for the entrepreneurship space, Jerry, helping startups, the high tech to non high tech. You were there right there for 4 years with me in that space, developing ideas from the hatching and beyond. Uh, so impacting, that's who I am personally. It's create those pathways. And I look at it through, you know, both the societal piece, but as well as the corporate piece too. Beyond me being the equity development officer for Leap, it's also Proto with corporate innovation, which is a whole other thing. We talked about on a separate show or later on, of course, offline, is that big companies can fail. You know, and always the tried and true example was the old school of Kodak, right? That's Jerry, right? Kodak employed at one point 96,000 people in the greater New York area, right? At its height. They employ 4,000 worldwide now. So all those jobs were dissipated. On the other end, because they didn't find an actual business model for what's going on. On the flip side is like Fuji Films, the big competitor. They still exist today, and not as large, but they're as profitable as almost the profit was the word in that era versus and the way that we can change. So personally, Jerry, it's always been about helping people find resources, honing the idea down to figure out what you're really trying to get at, the business model. And that business model, we know this very well, Jerry, is that a business model is equally as for a for-profit, also as for a societal issue or any other programmatic thing. You need your key resources, you need your key partners, how it's going to make money, who benefits from it. And so those things always spoke to me, and being in a position where I'm in now to really give more intentionality to communities of color, of Black and Brown communities and beyond, and other underrepresented groups too. It's great.
Yeah. So, when we were doing the BAF, the Business Acceleration Fund, we were really good at it.
Yeah.
And we still are really good at it, or you guys still are really good at that. But we were also very diverse, right? You and I had a lot of conversations about, you're not a headache, Michael. Don't worry about this, because I'm going to come back to what you're saying there in a second. We've had tons of conversations about the people and the fairness, and you always knew where I was coming from. I always knew where you were coming from. So I sincerely believe in you as being a great leader for DEEP. What Michael's saying is, and this is something I have a very strong opinion about this too. There's a lot of poor people out here that are very competent. And there's a lot of Black and brown people out here who are very competent that have been oppressed for a very long time. And sometimes it feels like we're trying to be replaced. We're trying to be fixed or something like that. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of listening. And I know that you and Michael's got a lot to say. He's got a lot to contribute. He's got a lot of data that he's collecting from the village and the advocates, the other work that he's doing in gun violence, which I think is amazing. And what I hope is that I see a cohesive, it doesn't even have to be cohesive, but a team of us, a lot of strong men here doing some really good stuff. Let's push our needle in the same direction. And so you're not a headache, Michael. And sorry, Tony, I don't want to put you on the spot anywhere too.
No,
But
listen, I'm open. So I'm sorry, I don't see I don't see, I'm just seeing you, Jerry, on the screen.
yeah,
Sure
I know. It's okay. It's all right. I won't put the comments up right now. But here we go. Here's the question.
Okay. Sorry, let's see.
Got it? And
okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when it comes to, first, when I talk about that Black Economic Empowerment Roundtable, that was me off the bat to get a number of folks that came from, I won't say all their names, but they're all mutual friends, people that we know that are in the Black economic empowerment space. So I said, hey, collectively, let's all come together. So reaching out to these groups. That's one thing, is to be the voice, understanding, and hearing out ideas, right? And I've shared through those meetings, I shared all those grant opportunities, Jerry, you mentioned that I'm applying for LEAP. I shared my entire list of what I look at, as well as what I'm going to do to the entire group, because that's called giving out. And it's making sure people see what's going on in that space, because it's collaborative. The more people that apply from the Lansing region, the better. So, and also empowering those, giving support to other folks that are doing this work. Because the more lines we have in the ocean, the more times the better we have a bite, a bite on the line. So that's one way. When it comes to, so there are a lot of folks doing the work in that space. And I reach out and I'm open to talk to folks who are doing the work. And so that's the intentionality. When it comes to organizationally, we are also putting together for LEAP itself, I don't get too much into it, but a policy to bring a number of those organizations into LEAP's actual board. So it's not just being like outside in, I want those individuals to have membership and a board seat at Leap's table. It's actually opening those doors. So we actually are doing the work and also creating organizational changes. And some of those things might not be seen because they're not out there as much. But as I mentioned, there's programs, policies, internal and forward facing, and collaborations, all under the deep umbrella. And each one of those are being explored, right? Not being explored, are being executed on as we speak.
Yeah. I also, I think one of the things, like, sitting here from the Fledge's perspective, that's not always doing economic development. We're trying to feed people. We're trying to end gun violence too. We're trying to do a lot of different things. We're not always included in the economic table because
Right.
we're looked at as like this social, whatever it is. I think that including, maybe people look at the village and don't think that it's economic development. They see it as something else. But I'm going to kind of cut this off for a minute, and we're going to keep having this conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. All right. I hit the nail on the head. So Michael's, that's what we're saying, is that some of the things that traditional economic development looks at aren't the things that we see as important for the prosperity of the people in our neighborhood. And, I believe you, Tony, and I believe Michael's sincere, and I believe that we can be strong and push this forward. So I'm going to end it with that, but I'm going to ask you, what's something you do every damn day to push this needle forward?
Yeah. Every damn day to push this needle forward, Jerry. It's one, you got to stay sharp on the subject matter of equitable economic development across the nation and beyond. That's one thing I reach out to. So beyond me and my lead path, I consider myself somebody passionate about this topic, and it showed my work beforehand. So reaching out to folks in other communities and seeing what programs work, and that's how we develop One and All. I took, I think you were part of that one brainstorm session. You got to look at what's going on. There's a program in Connecticut, program in Illinois. I said, let's take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, throw in some Lansing flavor on it. And then it got great. I was lucky to have a num to run it and blow it up out of the, I planted a tree. She made a forest. It's been phenomenal in that space. I look at, so every day I look at what's going on in other metropolitan areas or other areas where Black and brown people have high concentration. There is that McKinsey study. When we think about Black people and experience where we are in America, I think 14 states make up 68% of the Black population in 14 states in America, right? And so there is a high concentration of those 14 states to see what's going on and where the disparities lie at, what's working, the framework of what's happening. So reviewing is one thing I do every day for that subject matter itself. You got to stay, and also just, I guess, imaginating. All right, I ideating and use my imagination. You got, I write out long. What's the best way to put it? Like business model canvas, Jerry, is like I just like, hey, this is a program. Who could do this? And it's not just my thing. I just write with other people. I say, how can I make plays for other people in this space? You had that one guy on. I've not met him yet either. The urban gardening.
From the Root of the Vine, Alan.
Yeah, Alan. And I think
where's his last name, Alan? Dang it!
Right? Yeah. But the whole thing like that. So, I'm a board member of AOTA. So me and Jose on others part we're connected. But I saw him on your show. I know he's with AOTA to some degree as well. Not a board member, but I know he's in the space in the program. But I was like, I wrote out a program. How can we enhance urban gardening and getting key people like himself, getting Agro Liquid, getting MSU, the city's budget. I mean, there's things that I just draw up and say, hey, these are the plays that can be done. We actually be intentional about this. And so that's a part of that space. So those are two things I ideate, think of every day, of new stuff and also look what's going on out in the world.
Ellen Whitley, but he goes by Ellen Lee on Facebook. But shout out to him because he's doing great work too.
Amazing work.
So we daisy chain these shows together. And yesterday on the show, I got a guy from North Dakota. His name is Adam. He runs a program called F5 Projects. And his question to you is, what do you do for reflection?
Man, reflection. That's what do I do for reflection? You know, I think history is always living and it's never done. It's never history. It's always here. Even this moment in time, it's never this moment. It's always moving. So we look back at it. I've always been a person who's retrospective or introspective of who I am, how I'm acting within it. You know, I think it's okay to let your mind wander and touch on some of those feelings and act on them accordingly. I think that's a good way to go for it. Is reflecting and see why I react this way in this situation or how I feel. So let your mind wander and take it and find a moment of peace and solace and to get that state. I think that's some way to be reflective. That comes to me personally.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Don suggested that maybe you read comic books to reflect, which reminded me, are your business model canvases stick figures with action and pow, or are they words?
Yeah, I'm a horrible drawer, Jerry. I can hardly,
so.
Yeah, you know, I can hardly draw a straight line, let alone anything else. But yeah, I think comic books I reflect on. But I'm not sure about you, Jerry. When you read a book, like right now, we're reading Cast by Isabel. The last name escapes me right now. It'll come up here. But when you read a book, or I read Powernomics. I read that with Dr. Claude Anderson, right? And you start thinking about all the other things that are happening in this space. Do you ever like stop at reading a book? And then this happens to me all the time. Something catches my attention so much, I start thinking of scenarios, how to act upon those scenarios, figuring out what's relevant, what's real, how can I, in that space. That happens to me continuously.
First of all, it takes me a year to read a book because of that. I mean, okay. Not quite. I read a lot, but I always am drifting off. And it's the number one reason I can't use Audible. Because I'll hear a statement, I start thinking about it, and then the whole book is gone by. Like I don't pause it when I start. And so I'm thinking and they're talking. And yes, very much like that. Okay. Very much like that.
Good. I find relief to hearing I'm not alone in that, Jerry. So thank you.
Well, it also, that hurt my scores in reading comprehension as I was growing up. I was always super good at math, and then my reading comprehension, I'm like, they're telling me I can't read. But it's not like that. It was I go off on thoughts and daydreaming and all of that stuff. So Don's doing this. He isn't quite doing it, but he's giving you the applause-o-meter real quick.
Thank you, Don.
On the show tomorrow, Jesse Flores, another good friend of ours, another long-term economic or ecosystem guy. What question would you like to ask Jesse?
Yeah, so for Jesse, Jesse came on the scene, probably, like 4 or 5 years ago. Who knows? All blends together. Probably longer than that, actually. Jesse definitely was quickly to spread out his wings and grow in a lot of different areas, right? He had Startup Lansing. He had Super Web Pros. He was like a JavaScript or they call it, I think it was JavaScript or some Python, some other coding club, that Starbucks and a few other places at the Tick in downtown East Lansing. So many great ideas, right? And I want to know from Jesse is when do we sunset an idea? When do you, or what level of measure does he use to say, hey, this is no longer something I should do now, later, or never, and figure that out? Because it could be postponed, it could be forever. But when do we figure out the sunset, put on the shelf? I guess what measure do we find that?
And so I flipped this question on you. How do you do that? What measure do you use? Maybe even what's a program that you really didn't want to sunset, or a project that you had? I don't mean a program, but and you just, your fingernails got pulled out trying to keep it going.
I think, have you ever heard of the theory of escalation commitment?
No.
So it's a theory where the longer you stay with something, the harder it is to get rid of that something. That I've invested so much time in this. The escalation of commitment. I've been committed to this thing for so long. I've done this.
I call it pot committed, but yeah.
Right. And so, but I gotta keep doing this. I spent years on this. I can't. We know. Listen, Jerry, we know this. We know the crazy, not crazy, but the ideas that are out there that are so far out there, but people keep pursuing them for years and years on end, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is it's a habit, it's a hobby, which is okay. But then, is it really realistic for it to take place? And Jerry, we know this. We know what's really tangible and not, in our space here. So my thing is, when it's enough, it's enough, no matter what, and that's okay. And because you have to become comfortable with that. So, as always said, I always keep that theory in my mind, saying, "Hey, so am I doing this because I'm doing it because I spent time doing it, and I feel like I'm afraid to not do it anymore, or to give up on it, or and then if so, check yourself and it's okay to stop it and to put it aside. It's it's okay to put things away. It's okay. So it's okay to stop. It's good. It's all right.
Yeah.
There's no hurt in that. And so that's why I look at that theory of escalation commitment. It's I think be retrospective and introspective in that helps me when I see a project. So on a personal note, Jerry, about 6 years ago, I had a Wix webpage. I bought a number of oils, your base oils, essential oils, and I had a beard oil.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep, right. You know what I mean? And yeah, I stopped that because I probably could have kept going, but it's like, of time, family, 2 boys then, now 3, everything else is like, it was okay. I did the website, I had stuff going. I started making some samples. You can heat the oil up to let it make the balm, to let it solidify. But I was like, even though, and I had maybe like a gallon, a few of these different base oils, your coconut, your shea butter, and all this stuff, right? I was like, I put some money into it. I was like, it's okay. It's okay to stop. It's all right, and I probably got it some of this closet behind me here that needs to go away. But yeah, so that's a personal project that I just feel like, what? It probably could have took off, but it's okay,
I'm still trying to do my paper route I did when I was 12. I can't let go of that. It's like, that was my route. I was at Hag Road and Hughes and over there on the south side. What's happiness to you, and are you happy?
Yeah, so happiness to me is okay. All right, Jerry, going to deep questions. I like it. What is happiness to me? I think happiness comes with fulfillment. It comes with a sense of hope, fulfillment, a sense of be for yourself and seeing happen in others as well. Does that also be directly tied to your personal being? That's what happiness comes to me. Am I happy now? Yeah, I think I am. I am happy now, but I also believe that everything is temporary. And everything comes and goes, and it's not mutually exclusive either. You can be happy all around with other feelings and emotions as well. I could be happy. I could be frustrated. I could be happy. I can be disgruntled, but still be kind of happy in a sense. Also, you know what I mean? And so I think there's and knowing that it goes up and down. all moving all together at different times. It's so that's why I look at it. So I am happy now. I feel that way. I'm happy for what I have going on. Happy for my kids' health. Uh, Most importantly, I probably so. And yeah, but I'm
Awesome.
hey, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's
So you threw the word hope in there, which leads into my last question. What gives you hope?
that a lot of things, Sherry. Honestly, I'm hopeful for the future. I really am. On I think there's no problem that humanity can't overcome. It's in us to create. Now we create a lot of our own, things that are probably leading to our downfall, but that just shows the power of the ability to create. You know, uh, I love Big Crit. He's one of my favorite rappers. He had a song titled Big Crit, and he said, "My creator gave me the gift to create. In this mind of mine, I apply our escape in an atmosphere that can no longer hold ours." It keeps going on like that, but the idea is that we can create any solution or problem, and that we as humans, we are our own architects in this space. So I'm hopeful that, especially when it comes to social matters and economic empowerment, especially that we're in the American capitalist society, and we think of that, how that relates to Black people within that space and Black and brown people. I think there's ways for us to really be advantageous and create pathways for ourselves, uh, and that we'll have a better future. That will, my personally, I hopefully I get to experience, but my kids and my kids' friends and X, Y, and Z, my younger siblings and stuff like that. I feel like so. I'm hopeful. Uh, I have hope. I'm hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful for a lot of great things that will come to be, and that the work that we're all doing are making those things more tangible and making them more self-clear, more evident that will actually be here for that to happen.
Yeah. You know what gives me hope about Black and brown equity is that you're leading deep, because I can't think of a better person in our city that knows our city better and that knows the problems here. I think, we can, what Michael said, I think is very valid and needs to be talked about, but you're the man to make that happen. And it gives me a lot of hope. And I was so happy when I saw that. Your new division and all of that. So
that means a lot, Jerry. I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing with the pledge. You're inspiring so many other people too, Jerry. And so you're creating hope and creating pathways to activate oneself and to get that fulfillment. That's a part of it, and life is to give and to, this Muhammad Ali. So you remember that there's one interview with Muhammad Ali where he talked about all his actions of doing good things, from signing autographs, and it's, his thing was the afterlife. All those good deeds are my price to pay to ensure my place in the afterlife, right? And so it's hopeful that it's kind of self-fulfilling, but it's also hopeful and inspiring others to lead that same way. If you believe in more, his whole thing was to give as much as he can out to the world for that next phase.
Yeah, he was an amazing man.
Yeah.
And you, sir, are also an amazing man. Thank you for coming on our show. What would you like to take us out with? Or did you just?
I think that might have been it, Jerry. But I appreciate you, Jerry. Keep it up, brother. Let us know how we can do things. I'll say this. Let's continue to all collaborate together. That's where it's at. You mentioned society. Society, whether micro or macro, let's continue to all collaborate. Let's continue to have compassion for each other, be empathetic, listen with a sense of understanding. I think those are big things we can continue to do, and that's all it takes us out on that. And let's keep hope alive.
Well, I'm gonna say it a little bit different. Let's be Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang got a bunch of superstars doing superstar stuff, but when they come together, they ain't nothing to fuck with. So
nothing. I love it, bro. Keep it at it, man.
All right, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow. Every damn day at 2 p.m. Stick with me for a second.